So, ever since alarm messages have started appearing on HMI panels or SCADA systems around the world, there's been a desire to get that message straight into the pocket of the person who can resolve it, to ensure that downtime is kept to a minimum and throughput is to the maximum. Maybe in the past this was achieved through emails or text messages, but technology changes. We don't, in your personal life, you probably don't use text messaging that much. It's all about smart apps and push notifications nowadays. So I wanted to just show you quickly the SIMATIC Notifier product from Siemens, which is exactly this. It's the ability to send alarm messages to people via a smart app on their phone through push notifications. Now there's actually two options for this. You have the ability to do an on-premise solution, which is what I'm going to be demonstrating here. So you have a dedicated notifier server connected to a Wi-Fi network where everyone with their smartphones are connected to that same network, and then they can gain access to the alarm messages that way. If you wanted it so they were sat at home and maybe just connected to the regular internet and to receive the alarm messages that way, then there's also the ability to host the notifier server within MindSphere, and they would just connect that way over the internet and get all the same alarm messages. But essentially the app that runs on your phone is the same app, whether you're connecting to a localized notifier server or one that's hosted in MindSphere. So just to show you what I've got here, I will be doing a localized session. So I've got Notifier installed on a dedicated PC. In my case, it's straddling two networks. So I've got my regular Wi-Fi network here. So in my house, actually. So this is how my phone is going to be connecting in via the Wi-Fi in my house. And then I've got another network set up, which is in the 0 range, which is the PLC network. So the Notifier server will connect to the PLC on this network, but the alarm messages will be going out on the other network. In terms of my PLC, I'm actually just running PLC Sim Advanced in another PC. So this is all just being a simulated controller. And then I've got an engineering station where I'm engineering my tier portal project. So to make my life easy, I've just downloaded a sample project off the Siemens Industry Online Support site. This is the Library of Basic Process Control, which is the library for function blocks and faceplates for valves, pumps, and the likes, for use on our comfort panels like this, or also the WinCC version 7 SCADA systems. But I've chosen this project because essentially there's already built-in simulation for simulating faults on pumps and valves and things like this. So to be clear, I've got those faults that can be simulated, and within inside of the tier portal project, I've actually added ProDiag to this to make it even easier to get the alarms out. But essentially we can see here I've got 4 pumps, and there's an error message, a warning message, and a maintenance message set up on each one of these pumps. And this is of course just going to come through onto the HMI because it's using ProDiag, but now we want to know how do we get this to Notifier. So currently Notifier can't read ProDiag alarm messages or PLC alarm messages. It gives you 2 connection channels, it gives you 3 connection channels in which you can use to connect to devices to get data out and generate those alarm messages. Of course, the first one is going to be an S7 connection, whether that's an optimized S7 connection, so connecting to S7 1500s and 1200s, or whether that's just a regular S7 connection for devices like 300s and 400s. The other connection method that's there though is OPC. So it can establish an OPC UA connection to any device. And it's actually OPC UA I'm going to use here because I find this easier to deal with actually. So in this case my S7 1500 is actually acting as an OPC UA server. So if we come into its configuration, we can see it's an OPC UA server, and this is the address for the OPC UA server. Even though I'm running PLC Sim Advanced, that still simulates the OPC connectivity. So this will make my life nice and easy. So OPC is what we're going to be using. So in terms of the actual Notifier configuration then, if we go back to the Notifier PC, we can see it's running here. You actually configure it through a web interface. So you just install the software, and then in terms of configuration, we're just going, let's do it from scratch if you like, so we'll close on that web interface. We'll go to a new web interface. It's HTTPS and localhost. So it's the local website running on this particular PC. Now, because it is web hosted, you don't have to be at the Notifier server to configure it. You can be configuring it from anywhere that's on that same network. So this is obviously the PC name of where it's being located. And if I wanted to, I could go to my engineering station. I could fire up a web page on the engineering station, which also has a network connection to the notifier server. And again, we can just go HTTPS, XI notifier. And here we go. I'm in the notifier configuration again, but this time on a different PC. So this is really cool because it means you don't have to go to the device and do physical change at the device. You could be doing it remotely. So let's go back to where we were doing it there on the notifier server just for a moment. So here we have the configuration. So we'll click the configuration, and the first thing we have to do is log in, and you set up this user when you install the software. And of course you can add additional users. You saw on that landing screen there, you get the ability for user management to set up who can manage the system. So let's sign ourselves in. What's quite nice is you'll see that it's already saying hello. It's giving us a bit of a guided tutorial. Before you start, let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at this. Here's how you create new projects. This is pretty cool. You almost don't need to watch this video. You can just install it and follow this simple wizard. But let's do what it's saying. Step 2, let's create ourselves a new project. And then it's taking us through what we do inside of that. Anyway, let's cancel the tour. Let's go back to the start and let's create ourselves a brand new project. We'll call this project Notifier Demo, and away it goes and creates it. So here's the newly created project we just made, Notifier Demo. So you can see inside of here we get two things to set up. We get user management, so this will be setting up our devices, connectivity to the smart app, the smartphone apps, and then we get target systems, so what are we connecting into. So let's go to target systems, create a new one, pump system maybe we could call this, because we're getting those pump alarms. You can see here it's giving us some indication about this particular system. So at the minute it's in a stopped state, so we haven't configured it, we haven't downloaded it, nothing's running, that's why it's in that state. And we can see we're sort of by clicking through the system being driven into tags is the first thing that we should be configuring, because effectively it's the tags that are generating our alarm messages. So we're going to need to get ourselves a connection, so let's do that. We'll call this 1500 OPC, because that's what we're going to use, OPC. You can see there's the three different types of connections: Classic, S7 300, 400, Plus, 1200, S7 1200 and 1500s, or OPC. I'm showing OPC because I figured it'd be better for you to see this, because then you know you can just connect any device into this to receive alarm messages from it. So we know that the address for our station on OPC is that, and our port is 4840. Okay, so once you configure the connection, the next thing you're going to want to do is add the tags. Now this can be done as a manual process if you so wish, where you just go through here and type in the tags and type in their addresses, etc, etc. But of course there's a ways of just bringing the tags into this automatically. Via OPC, then we can do this with a tool that gets installed alongside Notifier and is accessible from the command prompt. Now this is fully documented inside of the manual, but just to show you what it looks like, because I ran it earlier, you go to the bin folder of WinCC Unified, which is actually the platform the Notifier uses, so this is why it's located here. There's a tool in there called OPC UA Exporter. Effectively you connect to the PLC, you give it, or the OPC server rather, you give it a destination to output the export, and then you get other stuff to set up, whether there's a password to gain access to it. So you effectively type that in, run the export. I did that earlier, and it spits out a XML file here with all the OPC server information inside of it. Once it's exported, we can then come inside here, go to that connection we created for the OPC, right click, load the server elements, and then import that file. Pretty simple. If you were using an S7 connection, then you can do a similar process via the Tier Portal project. So if we go back to my Tier Portal project, while it's just importing on that other thing, you will need the SCADA export tool. So if you right click on your PLC station, export to SIMATIC SCADA, This is the tool that you can download again off CEOS. I'll put the link in the YouTube description, which allows you to pull all the tags out of the SM1500 and bring them into a WinCC version 7, which isn't integrated into your portal, of course. This same export can be used in Notifier. Set up the S7 Plus connection, right click, import, and just import the export results from that tool. So if we come back to the Notifier machine, the import is now finished. And we can see here, this is what the tool sucked out of the device, PLC1, and here's all the data inside of our PLC and how we can access it via OPC. Now, if you remember in my case, I said I was going to be using the ProDiag alarms from here, and to make my life super easy and take advantage of a new feature that's inside of 2.8 firmware, I'm actually using the OPC UA server interfaces and alarms. So I've already set this up, but essentially I've created a static area for my alarms that I'm of interest of getting out of the PLC. I've just dragged these out of the project and put them into that server interface, meaning that when I go back to my Notifier project, in terms of what I need to gain access to, I can just go server interfaces, alarms, pump alarms, and then here's all the information I'm interested in, rather than routing through instance data blocks to try and find it. So in my case, we can say, okay, so pump 1 error we're interested in. Let's say we'll just go for the errors and the warnings just for a minute. Pump 1 warning we want, pump 2 error, pump 2 warning. So we'll stick in just those messages for now. So we've ticked those tags out of our exported file, meaning that if we go to the tags tab now, you can see it's automatically created that in the list for us with the relevant addresses and data types that's associated with it. You can see here you get a cycle associated with, just like you would in the SCADA system, of how quickly do you want that being polled. You'll see there that the quickest it can go to is 1 second, because you're already sending these messages over a Wi-Fi system to a smartphone app. So there's going to be delays in the process. This isn't going to be 100 milliseconds getting it from one place to another. So why bother polling it every 100 milliseconds as well? So we'll leave it as the default of 2 seconds. So with that configured, the next thing to do is then to set up the alarm conditions. Now we're actually pulling booleans here, but you could also be pulling integer values, real values, and setting up many different conditions. But for boolean, it's pretty straightforward because it's just on or off. So we come down here and we say we're going to have our alarm. So this is P1 error. Okay, we'll just pause that there, I think. The alarm class is going to be an alert, because this is an alert. There's 3 different types of alarm classes you can pick: alert, info, and warning, so we'll leave that as alert. Condition, now this is Boolean. Condition is 0 means true, less than 0 means false, so in our case 0 is fine. And the notification text could just be pump 1 error. Nice and simple, just for the minute. Of course, if this was an integer value or something, you could have different condition patterns for high levels, low levels. All that could be configured in this as well. Let's do the pump 1 warning, P1 warn. We'll put this in a different alarm class. So this could be a warning, pump 1 warning. Super. And we'll do pump 2 error as well, just super quick. P2 error. Forgive the typing. Alert, condition pattern out. 2 error. So some quick alarm messages that we've made within our system. In terms of setting up how we're going to get access to them, we need to create users. So let's go user management. First thing is pointed us to is user roles. So these are effectively just like you have in the HMI system for categorizing different types of people that are going to be viewing these alarm messages to allow you to apply filters on top of it. So for now, I'll just create one called operators. And in my case, the filter is give me everything. But you can see that if you wanted to, on top of this, if you come right down to the bottom here, advanced subscription filter, you could be including and excluding certain messages within inside of that grouping as well. So it's not a case of it will show you all the notifier alerts. You could say, well, yeah, show me the notifier alerts, but only on these particular devices maybe. With that done, we can then go to smart devices, and this is where we add our people. So my name is James, I'll add myself in. Notifier ID. So this is where the app comes in. So the app is available to download off of the whatever your app store might be, your app store. And once it's installed, we can go into the app here, and you can see I've got nothing configured. And the first thing it's asking me to do is add a connection. So if we go add connection, you can see this is where it's giving us the options to say whether this is going to be a local install we're connecting to or MindSphere one. Mine is local. It's asking me to put in the Notifier server IP. We'll just pause on that for a minute, because beneath this you'll see it's got the Notifier ID. And this is what we need to match up with our configuration here. So on James's phone, his Notifier ID, as per his phone, is B5046C. There we go. And his role is going to be an operator. In terms of finishing the connection on the phone, we'll come back to that in just a second. So that's all done. We can go to user roles, and you can see we've got James set up, and effectively that's the configuration done. If we now go back to our Notifier down project, our target system here, we can then click do a download to download it into our system. It says it's downloaded. We can hit the start runtime button, and we should see down here in the bottom right the status change, there we go, to indicate that runtime has started. So Notifier is active and in theory connected to the PLC and ready to send us some alarm messages. So in terms of the configuration on the phone, all we need to do to finish this off is type in the IP address of the server. So we'll type that in, 192.168.1.131. Give that a save. And there you go, it's connected. You can see here in the settings there's not really much to do. You give it the server connectivity. We can see we've connected to it, so we know it's running nicely on that box there. You get things like heartbeat, so your phone can keep sending you little sounds to let you know that you've still got an active connection to the server if you're worried that you weren't receiving the alarm messages. And you can see, obviously it can take you out to where in your phone you set your push notifications for how you would like these to be displayed on your device, whether you want them on the lock screen or not, banners and all this sorts of stuff. But essentially that's, oops, how do I get back to Notifier? No. That's kind of it. So you've got three views, notifications, assigned, and settings. So let's trigger an alarm message and see if it comes through. So if we go back to our simulator with the runtime, so we're on pump 1 here, we'll trigger a trip, and in theory, there we go. It's come through onto the phone here. We can see we've got an alert active, and the text I typed in the Notifier configuration is being displayed, pump 1 error. So we can go in there, and we get the ability to what's known as accept this error, which means I'm taking ownership for it. So then it goes into my assigned window, and you can see this error is assigned to me for me to resolve. So this is where the management of alarm messages come in, because if you had multiple people all receiving this notification to say this alarm is high, one of them can accept it. If someone else now goes and looks at their smart app, the Notifier app, it will say that so-and-so is looking after the alarm. In fact, I'm half tempted to show you what that would look like as well. Have I still got Notifier on this phone? Cool, I've still got Notifier on another phone. I'll quickly set up another connection and show you what that looks like with regards to that fault. I'll do it super fast. User management, so let's add ourselves a new smart device. Let's call this one Michael as an example. He needs an ID, so let's get the ID for this phone, 33AC8B. This guy will be an operator. There we go. Users added. Let's add that user to the system. 192.168.1.131. I've got that on the phone. That's downloaded. It says it's in runtime. So let's check this is working here. Let's connect on this phone. Let's re-enable screen record on this one. There we go. Okay, so now I've got a second phone connected into this as well, so I can show you what that management looks like. But effectively, if we were to trigger an alert again, trigger an alert, trip, we can see that both the phones are now reading that error message on their screens. So I call the other guy Michael. If the other guy was to accept that message, I'll show you it. I'm not recording this phone, but I'll show you what the other one's seeing. If I click accept, we can see here on the other phone who's not accepted the alarm message that the pump one is in error and there is alert. But if we go have a look, we can see it's been accepted by Michael, so we know that Michael is going to be resolving that fault, and I don't need to worry about it. Now, of course, if something else came in, I can't really show you the push notifications, I don't think, because of the screen. But let's go to pump 2. Let's do a trip on pump 2 on this screen. There we go. You can see the notification banner coming in on my phone. It's vibrated as well. I've got the sounds turned off actually. Why don't we turn the sounds on just for a laugh and trigger some more faults. There we go. There's the fault coming in with the sound as well. So it's a really cool way of getting these alarm messages out to your operators. But not only that, it's a cool way of coordinating them there. From rather than a text message is sent and now someone's trying to say, "Well, who's resolving this message?" "I don't know. I thought you were resolving it." You can coordinate that kind of response through the app there as well in terms of the faults that's being reported. I haven't triggered a warning. Let's go trigger a warning to show you how they look different. Trigger a warning. There we go. So there we go. So the warnings come through. I keep showing you. The warnings come through with a little yellow icon rather than a red icon, and the info ones come through with a blue icon as well. So there you go. A brief little video showing you how simple it is to set up Notifier for a more smart and intelligent approach to getting alarm messages into the pockets of the people that count. Stay tuned, guys. More coming soon. Bye.